Hello, good afternoon and or evening, depending on where in the world you are. Welcome to our LGBTQ plus Ask Us Anything event. We're excited to have you all here. Essentially, if you don't already know what this event is about, we are sitting here on a panel, a very diverse representation of the LGBT community, and any member, whether they are, seasoned members of the LGBT community or whether they are relatively new to it and just trying to figure their way around it and understand it. They can ask any kind of question about our experiences, about clarification that they may need in order to understand it a little better, anything of the sort. And our hopes with that is that everyone walks away from the event understanding a little bit more about LGBT identity, what it means to us and in general, and hopefully walk out of it maybe learning a little bit more about yourselves as well. Now would be a good time to welcome in our panelists. I will go ahead and start. I assume, as you've already figured out, I am Hado, 20-year-old gay man, elder moderator, and resident server owner. Pleasure to be here.
Hi, I'm Ella. I'm 18. I'm staff here. I am a trans woman. I am also aromantic, and I like women. Bizarre, your chair is creaking, so you'll go next.
Oh, awesome. Hi, I'm Bizarre. I play the game every now and then. It ain't no lie, baby. I'm bye.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
What? Hi, I'm Rival. I do the exact same thing, except a little more often. I'm bisexual, but I have a more of a lean towards men.
Pulte, how about you go next?
They are definite.
Okay, all right.
Just saying for Pulte in chat, they say they don't want to say it out loud, but they are non-binary.
Hi, I'm Epic. Okay, next. I'm Omni and questioning Genderfluid.
Hello, I am Matt, and I am transmasculine, non-binary, asexual. I'm 15 years old, I guess.
I'm Darrest, I am 15, and I am genderfluid and gay.
Yeah, I'm Devilmine, I am 17, and I am gay also.
Hey, I'm Pyraven, I am 19 today, and I am bisexual.
Motan, if you want to give us an introduction real quick.
I believe they said that they're not able to speak in the VC, so expect an introduction from them potentially in the general event channel if they want to do that.
All right.
Oh yeah, we actually already have a question. If you saw in the
I
general
did
event,
see
they
it.
asked,
Yeah.
What is aromantic?
Yeah, so aromantic technically is part of a whole spectrum. I can still be interested in dating people, but I generally do not feel romantically attracted to them. That's independent from the other types of attraction. And it can also mean like the exact opposite. Like you could be interested in people, but then not want to date people. So kind of just anything on that like spectrum or range. I'll answer. I'll ask Gray. God, words are hard. I'll answer Gray's question. The difference between aromantic and asexual is that aromantic is about romantic attraction, wanting to date someone, being romantically interested in them, versus sexual attraction, which is usually much more physical and usually about sexual desires.
What does it mean to be genderfluid? It just means that my gender just changes periodically, I guess. Like, it isn't set in stone.
So demisexuality is a sexuality where you are only capable of being sexually attracted to people when you are already very close to them, like emotionally. So for some people that could mean like you gotta know them for like a few months before you are sexually attracted to them. For some people it can be like 5, 10, even more years. Can people with autism, ADHD, and Down syndrome be LGBT as well? I have autism, and I know many other people that are neurodivergent and also queer or not cis. It's actually quite common.
That's the attraction to like every gender, but you still have a preference.
Yeah. So
you just like still take gender into account.
The way that I define it in my head, and this is different for everybody that identifies as one of the things. In my head, bisexuality is attraction to multiple genders, but according to their gender. pansexuality is attraction to people regardless of their gender or presentation. And omnisexuality, to me, is attraction to people regardless of their gender, but still taking into account their presentation. So I personally have a preference towards more feminine presenting people. Those are great two messages next to each other. Ellie, you could just confuse the shit out of me, and okay, that explains it a lot better, thanks.
Yeah, we might need to go into a little bit more detail about distinguishing the difference between presentation and gender, because I know some people get that confused a little bit, and I feel like that would probably help clarify your definition and distinction a little bit.
4 things are very commonly linked to gender, and those are pronouns, presentation, biological sex, and gender identity. But remarkably enough, all 4 of those things are entirely different. Someone could be assigned male at birth, identify as a woman, use they, them pronouns, and present masculine. That would work. That would be fine.
Could a gay man possibly have a girlfriend if they could? And I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that, so I'll approach it from a few different angles. For a gay man who lives in denial and does not realize that they are, it is possible for them to enter a relationship with a girl. They will probably realize that it's not really their thing. It is possible for, if you define it more in the loose sense of polysexuality, whether that's bisexual, pansexual, omnisexual, all those, then yes, it's possible for someone who may experience same-sex attraction, being the definition for gay, to also have a girlfriend, because they may experience attraction for both, or for more than just both. And then there's also this, sometimes a gay man will, even though they have like a relationship with another man, they feel the need to cover up the fact that they are in a relationship with another man by having a pseudo relationship with a woman, which just means they reach out to that person to say that they're in a relationship and spend time with them just enough so that way it makes it look like they're in a hetero relationship. And they call those beards. So if someone says that I'm in a relationship with a man but I have a beard, they generally mean that they're like covering up that with having a pseudo girlfriend.
I have heard cases where 2 gay men will be in a relationship and 2 lesbians will be in a relationship, and they will pair up and be in those pseudo hetero relationships just for like public image stuff. So there are generally accepted 5 different types of attraction. Yeah, 5. So the 5 are platonic, romantic, sexual, aesthetic, and sensual.
What about magnetic?
Okay, Darrest. So platonic attraction is generally wanting to like spend time with someone, like talk to them, do stuff with them, all that. Romantic attraction is wanting to date them. Sexual attraction is wanting to have sex with them. Aesthetic attraction is just really liking the way that they look. And sensual attraction is wanting to be physically affectionate with them.
Honestly, even I didn't know there were 5. I thought there were only like 3.
Yeah, I didn't realize that there were others as well.
That sends a valuable message, though, because I think it shows especially to the audience, but just in general, that like it's still a learning experience just as much for us as it is for like all of you. Like, just because we like have some first-hand experiences doesn't mean that we're like experts at it or anything. It's not possible to know everything about it. You know, everyone's still kind of in a process of still learning, and I do feel like that's kind of a misconception where it's like some people who are new to LGBTQ identity, like they walk in and they see that there are like 120 different labels, and they're like, oh god, like I don't know what to do about that, and I'm gonna have to memorize every single one of those in order to be a part of this, because all of them probably know all of them and will judge me for it, so I'm just gonna step out. Because it makes it seem like a response after fire, and most of us don't know all the labels either. And you know, we sort of come across them as we meet people who identify with them, and we, you know, share that experience together, learn from them, because it's a lot more about bridging the gaps between people and creating a community rather than, you know, flexing a bunch of memorized terminology knowledge on people. That's not what it's about.
It is fundamentally impossible to fit all of humanity into a finite number of labels, the more you try, the more confusing it gets. Yeah, so, Frost, I would say, could you be trans? Yes. Could you be gender fluid? Yes. Could you be something that you're not even considering right now? Also yes. You kind of just gotta figure it out as you go. Was it like being trans? It's impossible to describe using words, unfortunately. I'd love to be able to easily explain it. But it's kind of just like the feeling that there's things that are off about you, your body, your brain, your environment, and you just feel like they need to be changed.
When did you first realize that you were bi? I'd say it was about 2 to 3 years ago. That also took a little bit of like thinking about it. Hey, like, what does this mean that I also think that some dudes are also kind of hot? And you know, I started asking myself questions like, would I date this person if they asked? And I'm like, absolutely. And I feel like that's kind of where I realized, yeah, you know, I started accepting it. So gender is really, really freaking difficult, actually. It's not really something you can just pick a label and decide. You need to have a bit of an introspection. How you feel is as unique as you are as a person.
Sometimes people do pick a label that they feel is right, and then they do more introspection, and then they find that a different label is more right than that, which is why sometimes you'll see people's labels change over time. It isn't necessarily that they themselves and their identity are the thing that's changing. It's more often than not just them finding out things about themselves. Alright, so how has your sexuality or gender identity changed how you live normally? At least for me, I sort of have this saying of you never know how much cognitive resources you're wasting swimming upstream until you know which way the current is going. It takes a lot of energy that you don't even really know that you're spending to suppress yourself, and you sort of get freed up to have the mental capacity and energy to do a whole lot more things and approach them a whole lot more enthusiastically when you are in the rhythm of being yourself.
You sometimes have fear of letting people know who you are. I'd say yes. Since my school, it has like a lot of gay-friendly people who are like non-homophobic, but also has like a lot of homophobic people. It's like a luck of the draw, like if they're homophobic or not. So usually I just don't tell them unless they're like a close friend of mine.
What challenges have you faced figuring out these things about yourself at a younger age? To be honest, when I was younger, I haven't really figured it out, but I was quite feeling something wrong. Like, whenever my mom was asking me to be, like, acting, whatever my assigned gender is, I was kind of disagreeing on her and trying to tell her that I want to be myself, and over time it kind of just escalated. I also am quite uncomfortable with how people perceive me. Whenever people refer to me as he, I'm very happy. So at a younger age, it wasn't that difficult, but it felt kind of wrong, like slightly out of place.
How has coming out helped you exist within society? So this is a fun one because I am not fully out everywhere in all of society, but I'm relatively open about it at my university, and we still currently live in this convention-based society where if people don't know explicitly and you don't confirm to them what your sexuality is, they're probably going to assume that you're straight unless you're presenting in such a way that like makes it relatively obvious that you aren't. And I feel as though when I am talking to people in my field, which is psychology, predominantly female, there's always this worry that I might be accidentally like coming off in like a romantic way, God forbid in a sexual way. There's a whole lot of predation, we'll say, that goes on. Going out alone is like asking to have to fight for their lives, which is a horrible thing. It's sort of a necessity to sort of have that like danger system in the back of your mind ready in case a man were to make a move, and I worry that they view me that way. So I feel like if they know that I am not into women, then I feel like it sort of eases the tension where it's easier to make friends with them. and it's easier to know that they don't see me as a threat. How would you deal with homophobia? So, sort of the way that I go about approaching this is, while I do not think homophobia should be tolerated in like any capacity, I also have this deeply ingrained sense within me that fighting fire with fire burns the whole village down. I try to maintain poise when acknowledging to people that they are in the wrong, and I don't try to personally attack them for being homophobic, whether it's out of ignorance or out of malice. The latter being generally much worse. I know that the education system kind of fails people when it comes to describing anything outside of heteronormativity, as we just made it out of the dark ages of abstinence-only education not too long ago. So I understand that some people may be coming from a place of just not knowing what they're talking about, and I don't want to show my ass to someone if they don't realize exactly what they're doing wrong, and I feel like I'm only giving them ammunition to then continue having prejudice against me if I were to stoop to their level and respond with the same level of aggression. So, TLDR, take it with grace.
Somebody asked, is being gender fluid tough when people try to refer to? No, because I actually am fine with every label, masculine and feminine terms, and pronouns, so I don't actually care all that much.
I was concerned about people being supportive, and they were. So, I guess that's it.
Yeah, it's kind of the same for me. Like, I thought, like, some friends wouldn't be as supportive, but, like, gradually it just came out to more people as I felt more comfortable.
The thing is that my friends are also gay, so I didn't really feel anything, like, any hesitance to tell them.
For me, it was much less a struggle of telling the people around me, because the people around me are incredibly supportive and accepting, but I was not of myself. So I struggled a lot with coming to terms with the identity that I have now.
Have y'all ever been fired from a job because of your sexuality and or gender, I assume?
That's illegal.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty illegal, but there's definitely still some covert discrimination that may happen where they'll look for another reason to not hire you.
I haven't been fired from a job, but I know somebody who used to work at the place I worked at, but they quit like literally a week after he learned that I was bisexual, and I'm not sure if that's actually related or not, but he definitely did seem to avoid me after that, so I'm not entirely sure.
It's a little difficult for me to know the answer to this, considering I only came out like 3 months ago and I've been in the GD community for like 6.5 years. But I would say that as of recent, some people have been like reaching out to me asking, hey, what has your experience with this been like? How did you go about approaching this? Like, was there anything that helped you be able to do this? Because they have questions about their own sexuality and how to articulate it and how to come out about it, and just kind of how to come to terms with and accept it. And so I've been really grateful for that. There are some friends that I have had who reached out to me and offered me advice on ways to move forward from there. That was definitely really helpful, and we've sort of bonded and gotten a lot closer together because that's something that we share and it's something that we can be passionate about together. You never know if someone truly accepts you and embraces you if you have the concern that they may stop doing so or do so less if they were to know who you are. Being open about it to see who stays with you and who leaves is a really good indicator of seeing, you know, who are real ones and who are fake ones.
How much have you guys ever thought of yourself being one thing but realized it's something else? You know, at one point I thought I was pangender, and then I thought I was agender, and then I thought I was transgender. It happens a lot of the time, especially when you dive deeper into how you really feel about stuff.
Doggy, to answer your question, so while yes, many trans people do choose to conform to gender stereotypes, they don't just have their gender identity because of those stereotypes. They have those stereotypes because it makes them feel more like their identity.
I am currently reading Angus' questions, so I'll be out of commission.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
I was looking at that too. I was
I
going to give a response to that.
He's basically just asking, what is the biggest common misunderstanding people have about your gender/sexuality, and what would you say to clear up that misunderstanding?
Okay, so one misconception about like gender fluidness is that for like all genders, which that's not the case for me. I like that you can like identify at all genders at like one time. There's like some genders that I do not identify as, no matter like what gender I'm feeling, you know?
I guess I'll maybe just kind of like offer my 2 cents on that question. I guess like the main misconception I see with things like bisexuality is that people think it's like an even split, like you love like men and women like 50-50, and that's obviously not the case. It's more of like a spectrum. Like for example, like I'm probably more like a 90-10 like male to female. Like there's just not a lot of cases where I could see myself being with a woman as opposed to a guy. And I've even had like a couple friends who can be like more in the middle, and even have one who prefers women like almost like or a lot more than men, but still like he has like that slight attraction towards men that still kind of brings him into bisexuality. Like there's a really big spectrum depending on like I guess just who you prefer more.
The biggest misconception that I've seen about bisexuality, pansexuality, omnisexuality, whatever, all that, is unfortunately a very harmful one, and it's that bi people will be unloyal in a relationship because they'll crave the gender other than who their partner is. That's just not true. A loyal person's gonna be a loyal person, and an unloyal one is gonna be unloyal. That's just the way it is.
It's, yeah, 100%. It's no different than if you're in a heterosexual relationship, like let's say you're a male and your partner is a female. If you catch your eyeball in males, then, you know, it's the exact same sort of thing as that. Just because the attraction is different doesn't mean it's any more or less amplified, you know? It's just different.
And what do I think of the LGBTQ representation in countries like Germany or Austria, and what do you think of the many aunties in the mentioned countries? So, to go ahead, I have no idea about the Austria situation in any way. I can't tell you anything about that, sorry about that. But in terms of like the situation in Germany, I mean, you probably know that already, but like Germany is like considered one of the most gay-friendliest countries in the world in terms of rights in the first place, and I'm quite informed by that in that topic. So it's also really important to know that like in a recent poll made in like some years ago, there was also asked if people are fine with the same-sex sexuality thing, that people like just gay people are there and lesbians, and it resulted into the second highest score in the world as far as I know. So as far as I know, is like the situation, like the representation isn't lacking in any way.
What do you think of when coming out in Russia in public that people have the right to beat you to death? It is actually kind of true that people dislike or are so homophobic to the fact that they can beat you to death. Even if you do dislike something, why wouldn't you just walk past it? If you're trans in Russia, you can get a surgery there. Gay families, like homosexuals, can adopt a child. Just people have been taught that homosexuality and other queer stuff is a bad thing, but things are getting a little bit better, so I really hope that in the future everything comes together.
We on the internet are looking for people who have similar interests as us. We all gather around people who have all of those things, and that really ends up why we become each other and being more.
Okay, well I guess Pyraven is dead.
So I posted the definition of the mere exposure effect. I'm a psychology student, so I know all of these weird lingo terms that are just common sense but with extra steps. Essentially, the mere exposure effect is this idea that you can grow to like something more just merely by being in the presence of it consistently, as opposed to if you were left to your own devices to formulate your opinion on it without having exposure to it. And I think that the internet has this really fascinating power to break down barriers. You could talk to people who are from different ethnicities, from different backgrounds, from different races, from different cultures, from different religions, from different ages, from different sexualities, from different genders. And so it sort of breaks down any of the conventions that have been held in place solely by the fact that some people don't live within close enough of proximity to get exposure to other kinds of identities. What do you think of the furry fandom's involvement of the LGBTQIA community, of them being so supportive of the major role that they play? The fun thing about the furry community and the LGBT community and how they overlap is that a lot of people have this like predisposition that being furry makes you like more likely to be gay, or being gay makes you more likely to be a furry, even though it isn't necessarily like the case at all. And the reason why people find that correlation is because the furry community was, first of all, developed by a gay couple. A gay couple actually started the first FurCon, which was like a subset off of Comic-Con that later became its own convention. It was around the time of the HIV and AIDS epidemic, which anyone who knows much about LGBTQ history knows that it was one of the biggest instigators of oppression of gay people and people of LGBT identity. The reason why this sort of association came to be is because gay people were being thrown out of their homes. They were being rejected by society. They were being thrown out of pretty much every group. And this community that was founded by a gay couple are built on a foundation of acceptance that was way beyond its time. So any of those gay people who were being thrown out of their homes, who also happened to, have a susceptibility of enjoying being a furry, found that community a little bit more easily because they were the only community that they may have had access to at that point in time that would have been accepting of them for who they are.
What do you think about current queer representation in video games, movies? Sometimes it's really good, and sometimes it's just pandering. There was this really cool animated documentary film that came out recently called Flea. It's about a gay person, and I like it. I think it's really good.
Giant Cat,
I love this question.
Giant Dad, I believe the solution to your problem is to wear headphones. Keep your phone flipped upside down.
I am spiteful, so I would bump it louder, but I can't say that I recommend that.
I would also do that, yeah. Yeah, I would also do that.
You should blast it, in front of the entire school, and just...
Just take over the PA system.
Thank you all so much for attending and asking your questions and participating in this discussion with us. And if you want to see more stuff like this, just kind of let us know. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you didn't like. We would greatly appreciate that. So I guess with that being said, thank you to our panelists for giving such great, insightful questions. I greatly appreciate you taking time out of your day to be here. And to everyone who is still here, have a wonderful rest of your day.